All right, so what did you get for the domain for H? Do you have any red lights? Remember, the red lights are denominators with an X in it or a square root. So do you have either one of those for H? So what would be your domain for H? It's all real numbers. What about I? Do you have any denominators? We do. So we actually have to take out, we have to exclude. We're going to take the x plus 1, set that equal to 0, which means x cannot equal negative 1. And then if x minus 4 equals 0, x cannot equal 4. So going from left to right, the smaller number is negative 1. So our domain would be from negative infinity to negative 1. And then it would be anything from negative 1 to 4. And then 4 to infinity. And again, if you would like to draw that on a number line, you can, so you can see it. So negative 1 has to be thrown out, and so does 4. So open circles, because we cannot use those numbers. And we have 3 different sections. So we have to write an interval for each section. No brackets. All right, go ahead and copy down finding the values of x. So we're going to use the function f of x equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. And we're going to find each one of those values. So go ahead and copy down A and B, because those won't take a lot of space. C and D will take a little bit more space, so I'll give you a minute to copy that down, and then we'll start working through it together. So we're substituting in for x, different values, into that function. So we have our function f of x equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. And we are going to find the different values by substituting in for x. So we have an x squared and we have a 2x. So for part A, to find f of 2, I always like to write the function with parentheses in every place that we have an x. So I'm just rewriting that function, 3 parentheses squared minus 2 parentheses plus 1. So the first time you're going to put in a 2. Go ahead and use your calculators, type that in exactly as you see it written. So if it's just a number to put in, we can use our calculators. Order of operations. So I'm going to do it without a calculator. First you do your exponents, then you multiply, then you go left to right. So you should get 9. Who got 9? Okay. For part B, again, we're going to rewrite the function with parentheses. So we have 3 parentheses squared minus 2 parentheses plus 1, except this time we're putting in a 3x. So we're going to follow order of operations. First step would be to evaluate your exponent. So 3x times 3x, what is 3x times 3x? 3x times 3x. 9 who? 9x squared. So this will change to a 9x squared. And now we're going to multiply. So I'm going to take the 3 times 9, and 3 times 9 would be 27x squared. 2 times 3 would be a negative 6x. Negative 2 times 3 was negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. And then you have your plus 1. Are any of these like terms? You cannot do anything else. So that's all. That's your final answer. Yes, so if you're inserting a variable as far as x or h, you can't go all the way. This is as far as you can go. All of these we are simplifying, I should say. We're simplifying all of these. All right, letter C. This one gets a little trickier because we have to make a box or foil, or whichever way you've learned to do that, because you have to take x minus 2 squared. So we have 3 times something squared minus 2 times something plus 1. So we're putting in the x minus 2. So the biggest mistake that I don't want you to make when you take your test next week is x minus 2 squared is not equal to x squared plus 4. So a lot of times students will just distribute. They think you can distribute that and say, well, x squared and negative 2 squared, but that's not how that works. There's another term. So make a box. That's the only way to square something, is to multiply it against itself. So go ahead and fill it in. X minus 2 times x minus 2. So when you take x minus 2 times x minus 2, you actually get x squared minus 4x plus 4. So x minus 2 times x minus 2 is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now you're ready to distribute. Multiply this first parentheses by 3. The second parentheses, multiply it by negative 2. So this group, after we do our exponent, because we're following order of operations, exponent. So we took care of our exponent. Now we're multiplying. So take everything in this first group, multiply it by 3. So that will give you 3x squared. What else? What's 3 times negative 4x? Negative 12x. And 3 times 4 plus 12. I'm going to have to take this off, put that back on later. And then negative 2 times x would be negative 2x. What about negative 2 times negative 2? 4x plus 4. I'm trying to hear y'all. So now you have multiplied. The last step is to look for like terms. So we only have one x squared. So now we need to look for x's. So do I have a like term with negative 12x? What can I add to negative 12x? Negative 2x. Good. So we're going to add these two together. And what will that give you? What's negative 12x plus negative 2x? Negative 14x. And then we're going to look for numbers. So we have a 12, positive 12, a positive 4, and a positive 1. Go ahead and add all three of those together. 12 plus 4 is 16, and 16 plus 1 is 17. So that would be your final answer. That is as far as we can go. I'll give you a second to copy that down because I'll have to clear off the screen in order to do the last example. So now we can do the last one, which is D. So for D, we're putting in an x plus h. So we have 3. We have something squared minus 2 times something plus 1. Except this time, the something is x plus h. So again, anytime you are multiplying a binomial against itself, you need to make a box. So go ahead and make your box, multiply that x plus h times x plus h. So when you multiply x plus h times x plus h, these two are like terms. So this will become 2hx. So when you distribute, or when you multiply x plus h times x plus h, you get x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Go ahead and distribute the 3 and the negative 2. Let me make that a little bigger. Hold on. Okay. So go ahead and distribute out that 3. Multiply everything in this parentheses by 3. And then everything in the second parentheses by negative 2. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times 2hx would be 6hx. And 3 times h squared is 3h squared. Then we go down and we have negative 2 times x, negative 2x, negative 2 times h, negative 2h, and plus 1. Do we have any like terms? Because for it to be a like term, it has to have the same exponents and the same variables. None of these are like terms. So that is your answer. Okay. So now you don't have to copy this down, but this is just showing the operations that we're going to do with different functions. We're going to add them, subtract, multiply, and divide. Whenever we divide, we have to write our domain because we always know that our denominator cannot equal 0. So take a minute, copy down these two functions. So we have f of x equals 2x plus 1 and g of x equals x minus 3. We're going to take these two functions, we're going to add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide them. Okay, so the first one, easy. You're just adding together. So for part A, you're adding f of x plus g of x. So you're adding together 2x plus 1 plus x minus 3. Combine your like terms, get your final answer. For addition, order does not matter. So f of x plus g of x will give you the same answer as g of x plus f of x. When you combine your like terms, you have 2x plus x, which is 3x. And then you also have 1 minus 3, which is a negative 2. But for subtraction, you have to be more careful because order does matter for subtraction. So when you subtract for part B, you're taking f of x minus g of x. So that's 2x plus 1 minus x minus 3. So you have to distribute that negative before you combine like terms. So there's 2 steps. So you're going to distribute, and then combine your like terms. So after you distribute, that changes to negative x plus 3. Go ahead and combine your like terms. So 2x minus x is x. And 1 plus 3 is 4. For part C, it's multiplication. So you need to make a box or FOIL or distribute, whichever way you learn how to do that. So now you're taking these 2 functions and you're multiplying them together. Go ahead and do that. Fill it in. So we got 2x squared, 1x, negative 6x, negative 3. Combine your like terms. And your like terms would be your negative 6x and your 1x. So your final answer would be 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Now notice that all 3 of these have a domain of all real numbers. If I were to ask you the domain of any of these 3, none of these have a red light. None of these have denominators and none of them have square roots, so your domain would be all real numbers. But now we're getting into division. So for division, all we're going to do is write it as a fraction. And the numerator will be your f of x, and your denominator is g of x. So f of x is 2x plus 1. G of x is x minus 3. And that would be your final function. That's your function. We can't do anything else with that. But I do want you to write the domain of this function. So take a minute, write the domain of this function to see if you got that. So you take your denominator, set it equal to 0, which means x cannot equal 3. I'll write the domain at the top of the screen so that it's not too low, because I know at the bottom it's hard for some people to see. So your domain for the function 2x plus 1 over x minus 3 would be negative infinity to what? What number do I have to throw out? What's the only number that will cause this to be 0? Positive 3. And do I put a bracket on that 3 or a parentheses? Who says a bracket? Who says parentheses? It is a parentheses because parentheses means that it's not included. So this would be your domain. Okay, so we have covered everything on that homework that's due Friday. Tomorrow we're going to do some more practice, but we'll end there.